Alright, what's up, yins guys? Time for another exciting, action-packed reading of the BS Syndrome. And the chapter I selected today was a chapter that I was thinking about reading. I was back and forth on it. Now I just read one, and I'm going to do this today. My little bookmark here that I put in here just to show where I'm at here. So I'm going to stick this over here for now. So, alright. This chapter is going to be about technology. This subtitle, the effect of technology on self-esteem, and as associated to the bullshitter. And I realize how old this damn book is, and I always said that they ought to rewrite it, or somebody ought to rewrite it, or if that author is still around, rewrite it again and add to it, because the book is probably like freaking 20 years old. Like when I first owned it, I didn't have no internet or YouTube or anything, and geez, I don't even think YouTube was quite around yet. And since this talks about technology, I'm like, Jesus Christ, what's they're talking in here? When this was written by this author, they're talking about computers. Geez, look at it now. I mean, the author wouldn't realize this thing called social media we have, so this could be some pretty good read. You did want to laugh along with this reading, because with the shit is up, like up till now, Jesus. You know, I mean, we didn't really hardly have no internet or anything back in the days of this book. Excuse me. All right, the effect of technology on self-esteem. And one subtitle, change. There's other subtitles in here, and then technology, the motor of change. But we're going to read these first two chapters. All right. The roaring current of change has been so powerful that it has overturned institutions, shifted our values, and shriveled our roots. Change is the process by which the future invades our lives. It's the future shock, what happens to people when they are overwhelmed by change. And I think the object of the game, the people in power, anywhere you're at, is to deliberately overwhelm people. That's me talking, not the author, but I'm talking in parentheses here. Okay. So it is about the ways in which we adapt or fail to adapt, naturally. The acceleration of change in our times it's in itself an elemental force, and this acceleration thrust has resulted in personal, psychological, as well as sociological consequences. It is clear that future shock is no longer just a potential danger, but a real sickness from which increasingly large numbers suffer. Jesus Christ, they're saying that now, but what about now? And we actually, right as we speak, we have actually a virus pandemic that I actually have to have my mask on if I'm around other people, but kind of ironic. But, yeah, it is clear that future shock no longer just a potential danger, but sickness from which increasingly large numbers suffer. Should the rate of change continue as is without any controls, it is likely that we are doomed to a continued and massive adaptational breakdown. Could that be happening now? Well, it's been, like 20 plus years since this book was written, but they're pushing for it, you know. More sane sides are trying to overcome and keep things propped up, but people are trying to manipulate, break things down, and overwhelm the other to take over, so to speak. But all right, Western society for the past 300 years has caught up with the storm of change. Oh, wait a minute, let me reread that. Western society for the past 300 years has been caught up in a storm of change. Caught up in a storm of change. Western society for the past 300 years has been caught up in a storm of change. And far from abating, it appears to be gathering even more force. Tell me about it. The result of these changes, as they sweep through highly industrialized countries, with ever accelerating speed and unprecedented unprecedented impact are curious social flora they have spawned from psychedelic churches and free universities to science cities in the Arctic and wife swap clubs in California. I think he's being a little bit sarcastic there. And that makes me laugh because of shit you're hearing about and looking at these videos on YouTube, these different cults, documentaries on cults and different things. When you read between the lines, you know, the 60s, Charles Manson, and everything else, and all this shit going on. But a key qualitative difference between this and all previous lifetimes is that we have not merely extended the scope and scale of change, we have radically altered its pace. We have in our time released a totally new social force, a stream of change so accelerated that it influences our sense of time, revolutionizes the tempo of daily life, or I could say drastically fucks with it in a sense too. That's what I say, and affects the very way we feel the world around us. If acceleration is a new social force, transience is its psychological counterpart. And without understanding the role it plays in contemporary human behavior, all our theories of personality, of our psychology, must remain pre-modern. In all, by changing our relationship to the resources that surround us, by violently expanding the scope of change, and most crucially, by accelerating its pace, we have broken irretrievably with the past. We have cut ourselves off from the old ways of thinking, of feeling, of adapting. We have set the stage for a completely new society that seems to have fractured man. Oh, and to pause this for a second, you might want to watch a YouTube video called HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, HAARP, Holes in Heaven. The introductory clause, an introductory quote, if you will, to that, pops into my head right now. They made a quote from the late Carl Sagan about misunderstanding of, about expanding of technology, and way more of the masses actually fail to really understand technology the way it's expanding. I'll get you the exact quote, or you look it up. Look up the video, HAARP, Holes in Heaven. Even if you don't watch the whole documentary, watch the opening caption. That is a really heavy statement that they quoted the late Carl Sagan about technology. The statement literally says that technology can blow up on our faces in the future and pretty much create an apocalypse. But yeah, that popped into my head. You know, you gotta just look up HAARP, Holes in Heaven. But anyway, okay. So where was I here? We have cut ourselves off from the old ways of thinking, our feeling of adapting. We have set the stage for a completely new society that seems to have fractured man. It has left him desperate, lonely, empty, anxious, insecure, and confused, as well as angry and violent. Equally, it has left him more and more powerless. Not everyone, however, shares these feelings. Millions sleepwalk their way through life as if nothing has changed since the 1920s. And as if nothing ever will, they have attempted to withdraw from it, block it out, and if possible, try to make it go away by ignoring it. They see a separate piece of diplomatic immunity from change. Maybe they're trying to hold on to old school religion, which some of it has its good and its bad. They try to modify it and modernize old school religion. That's another damn story too. Yeah, they have BS in religion, a whole chapter, which I'll get to in this book. But anyway, one sees from everywhere old people resigned to living out their years, attempting to avoid at any cost the intrusions of the new. Already old people of 35 and 45, nervous about student unrest, sex, and drugs, feverishly attempting to persuade themselves that, after all, youth was always rebellious and that it is happening today and is not different from the past. However, even among the young, we find the incomprehension of change. Students so ignorant of the past that they see nothing unusual about the present. The disturbing fact, however, is that the vast majority of people, including the educated and otherwise sophisticated people, find the idea of change so threatening that they attempt to deny its existence. They have a vague feeling that things are moving faster despite their denials. Doctors and executives complain they cannot keep up with the latest developments in their fields. Hardly a meeting or conference takes place today without some ritualistic oratory about the challenge of change. Among many, there is an uneasy mood, a suspicion that change is out of control. Even the people who understand intellectually that change is accelerating have not yet internalized that knowledge, do not take this critical social fact into account into planning their own personal lives. C.P. Snow, the novelist and scientist, also commented on the new visibility of change. Quote, until this country, he writes, social change was so slow that it would pass unnoticed in one person's lifetime. That is no longer so. The rate of change has increased so much that our imagination can't keep up. Indeed, says social psychologist Warren Bennis, the throttle has been pushed so far forward in recent years that no exaggeration, no hyperbole, no outrage, or no outage can realistically describe the extent of the pace of things. In fact, only the exaggerations appear to be true. Yeah, I said that in some of my own videos before. A lot of stuff exaggerated by technology and science fiction is coming true. You know, you got drones flying around in the sky and everything else. Yeah, it's some of the stuff that we're saying now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read this last subtitled chapter. It's not that long. Technology, the motor of change. The great growling engine driving this prodigious monster of change is technology. This is not to say that technology is the only source of change in society. Social upheavals can be touched off by a change in the chemical composition of the atmosphere, the alterations in the climate, the changes in fertility, the many other factors. Yet technology is undisputedly the major force behind accumulative thrust. However, the old images of technology must be jettisoned. Technology, systematic treatment, which includes technique or ways to make chemical reactions occur, ways to breed fish, plants, forests, light theaters, count votes, or teach history. There is almost no area that is not subject to technology. Jeez, tell me about it. Yeah, look at now as to when this book was first written. It's an understatement, don't you think? Technology's primary characteristic and measure is always efficiency. Technology's primary characteristic is efficiency. Okay, it's always efficiency. The old image of technology as clanking machines and smoky steel mills is misleading. The age of technology, the assembly line, the organization of armies of men to carry out simple repetitive functions, has become an anachronism. Once again, I bring up the YouTube video, The Story of Your Enslavement. If you got this far in this video, industrialists, organizing, different things like that. A thumbnail account of the progress in transportation can well dramatize the development of technology and the acceleration it has caused. It has been pointed out, for example, that in 6000 BC, the fastest transportation available to man over the long distances was the camel caravan, averaging 8 miles per hour. It was also 1600 BC when the chariot was invented. That was only in 1600 BC when the chariot was invented, that the maximum speed rose roughly to 20 miles per hour. It then took until approximately the 1800s to reach the speed of 100 miles per hour with the advance of the steam locomotive. However, it took only 58 years from that time to quadruple that limit. It's so that by 1938, airborne man was cracking the 400-mile speed limit. It's so that by I almost lost my place. It took just a mere 20 years more to double that speed limit. By the 1960s, rocket planes approached speeds of 4,000 miles per hour, and men in space capsules were circling the Earth at 18,000 miles per hour. Wow, goddamn! Whether we examine distances traveled, altitudes reached, minerals mined, or explosive power harnessed, the same accelerative trend is obvious. The pattern here is 1,000 other statistical series is absolutely clear and unmistakable. Millennia or centuries go by, and then in our own time, an explosion of the limits, a fantastic spurt forward. The reason for this is that technology feeds on itself. Technology makes more technology possible. Technology makes more technology possible. Yeah. As we see, we look for a moment at the process of innovation. Technological innovation consists of 3 stages linked together with a self-reinforcing cycle. First, there is the creative, feasible idea. Second is practical application. And third, its diffusion through society. The process is now completed and closed. So, in other words, go in a loop. The diffusion of technology embodying the new idea, in turn helping to generate new creative ideas. The computer, for example, made possible sophisticated space efforts. Linking with sensing devices, communications equipment, and power sources, the computer became part of configuration that in aggregate forms of single new super machine, a machine for which reaching into and probing outer space. Yeah, look what we got the Mars rover and all that stuff. But for machines or techniques to be combined in new ways, they have to be altered, adapted, refined, and otherwise changed, so that the very effort to integrate machines compels us to make still further technology informations. Remember the science fiction Dune, the Duke meeting with that real ugly monster floating in there in the little chamber, the space navigator, the one that Paul Atreides killed. We have just folded space from whatever planet they called planet that they said. Many machines there, new machines, better than this planet. And they're talking about they wanted Paul Atreides killed. I did not see this. I was not here. All right. So anyway, yeah, I'm thinking about Dune, that little scene. It is vital to understand, moreover, that technological innovation does not merely combine and recombine machines and techniques. Important new machines do more than suggest or compel changes in other machines. They just suggest novel solutions to social, philosophical, or even personal problems. They alter man's total intellectual environment. They alter man's total intellectual environment, the way he thinks and looks at the world. They also determine his behavior. So far, man has pretty much failed in his adaptation to technology. It forces him to react constantly. And with each failure to cope, he becomes psychologically shattered. The rising rate of change in the world around us disturbs our inner equilibrium, altering the new ways in which we experience life. Acceleration without translates into acceleration within. Let's say that again. Acceleration without translates into acceleration within. Okay, so now I read that again, I understand that sentence a little better. The accelerative thrust in the larger society crashes up against the ordinary daily experience of the contemporary individual. For the acceleration of change, for the acceleration of change shortens the duration of many situations. This is not only drastically alters their flavor, but hastens their passage through exponential channels. Compared with life in a less rapidly changing society, more situations now flow through the channel in given interval of time, and this implies profound change in human psychology. While we tend to focus on only one situation at a time, the increased rate at which situations flow past vastly complicates the entire structure of life, multiplying the number of roles we must play and the number of choices we are forced to make. This in turn accounts for the choking sense of complexity about contemporary life. Moreover, the speeded up flow of situations demands more work from the complex focusing mechanisms by which we shift our attention from one situation to another. There is more switching back and forth, less time for extended peaceful attention to one's problem or situation at a time. This is what lies behind the vague feeling noted earlier. Things are moving faster. They are around us and through us. There is, however, still one more powerfully significant way there is, however, one more powerfully significant way in which the acceleration of change in society increases the difficulty of coping with life. This stems from the fantastic intrusion of novelty, newness into our existence. Each situation is unique, but situations often resemble one another. This is in fact what makes it possible to learn from experience. If each situation were wholly novel, without some resemblance to previous experienced situations, our ability to cope would be hopelessly crippled. Yeah, might as well be having the Iron Maiden song play in your head. Feel like I've been here before. Feel like I've been here before. And when you feel deja vu. Yeah. Okay. All right. One more paragraph and that's it. The acceleration of change, however, radically alters the balance between novel and familiar situations. Rising rates of change thus compel us not merely to cope with a faster flow, but with more situations to which we previously personal experiences do not apply. We no longer have the luxury of thinking about something, making a decision about it, and utilizing the effort in application to similar instances. Now it is necessary to take each situation and repeat the process each time, and with the rapid flow of the new, unique confrontations is not only difficult, but oftentimes impossible. So, in other words, like a video I actually saw on YouTube somewhere. So many different videos, whether you call them conspiracy theories or political or all other kind of stuff. They do say a fact that we are being assaulted by mass media, and not just the television anymore, computers. And the author of this book literally saying we are being assaulted by technology, maybe mass media. But now mass media literally is technology. Technology and mass media. You can be thinking about that, throw that in the equation. But all right, there you have it. The stuff right there. Damn near half-hour long video already, but